We've seen Wikipedia articles be edited using these bad stories, this fake news, to assassinate someone's character. And this can be particularly dangerous for people like me when I'm out in the field and somebody sees me and then accuses me of being alt-right, and I get physically attacked. How's it going, everybody? In following through on the activism journalism conversation, there's a conversation that needs to be had about the attacks that we're seeing and how journalism is being weaponized. I talked a little bit about this before, but first, let's jump back to VidCon. For those of you who don't know, VidCon is the largest digital video convention in the world, I think. It's really big. You see a lot of the big YouTube stars showing up, and the little kids are chasing them around screaming, all excited to see their favorite celebrity YouTuber. But this convention is for everything from live streaming to Instagram, whatever social media platform where you can start a business and attract a following. At VidCon, something controversial happened. Sargon of Akkad and many people who he's affiliated with or make similar content to him filled up the front rows of a panel for women and harassment, and Anita Sarkeesian, a well-known feminist, without provocation, called Sargon a garbage human and a shithead. This resulted in a big controversy because Anita, she did violate the code of conduct for VidCon. Following this conference, Hank Green, one of the founders of VidCon, put out a statement saying that it's hard to believe that people like Sargon, he didn't mention him specifically, but this group of people wouldn't be aware that showing up and filling up the front rows would be intimidating. And if I'm being completely real, in my interview with Sargon, he said showing up would be enough to set them off. You would be hard-pressed to think that Sargon and these people didn't realize sitting there would create tension. That being said, Sargon didn't do anything wrong by attending a public event and listening to Anita and other people speak. Anita, however, did violate the code of conduct when she insulted him and attacked him while on stage. Now, VidCon is perceivably pandering to a progressive activist narrative. And I say perceivably because, there's no statement from any of the founders or any of the sponsors that this is the narrative they're pushing. But you can look at many of their panels. They're aimed at social justice and resist as one of their panels, where they all flat out were opposed to Donald Trump. So there is a progressive activist slant to the panels they're having. And for me, I went to a fake news panel, a panel called Informing People in a Post-Truth World, where the entire panel was progressive activists, or at least for the most part, hardcore progressives. So to further elaborate there, when looking at Hank Green's statement, he mentions that women receive more harassment and often more intense harassment than men online. And this is where I start to view them as, sort of pandering to progressive activists, because that statement is objectively false. It is at least statistically false. According to the Pew Research Group, men receive the overwhelming majority of online harassment. Now, women do receive more sexual harassment and stalking, but men are the bulk of the victims. When you look at younger crowds, it tends to be women who receive more harassment. But all in all, men are the overwhelming majority of victims, especially when it comes to threats of violence and death threats online. So when Hank Green says that, it appears that they have a progressive bias, because again, that's factually untrue. But before I move on, let's be fair. People who watch Anita's videos and people who watch Sargon's videos have their fair share of harassment. Feminists and anti-feminists, they harass each other, they dox each other. That's what happens. Now, the thought leaders tend to tell people, hey, don't harass people. They make a video that's critical of one side or the other, and they tell their audience not to harass, but guess what? People are going to do it anyway. So no one is truly innocent. People are doing harassing on all sides, they're doxing on all sides, and I think it's ignorant to pretend like there's only one villain, that there's one side is good and wholesome and one side isn't. Certainly there are people who are right and wrong, but at the end of the day, there are a large group of people on all sides doing a bit of harassing. So now let's look at how activists in these situations are weaponizing information and attempting to take down their opponents and silence their actions and their speech. A couple articles popped up, one from Polygon and one from Mike, where they slant the story heavily in favor of Anita Sarkeesian. Anita Sarkeesian also put out a statement claiming that she was being intimidated and was going to fight back, things like that. These articles paint a picture saying that Sargon and his friends were coordinating an intimidation campaign against these women. It's dangerous to say this is intimidation because you're making an assumption about the actions of individuals. So while I can say, yes, these people, in this audience knew there would be tension, it's hard to say that they truly expected to be attacked for it. In the article from Mike, they talk about how Patreon, a subscription system for independent creators, was investigating Sargon of Akkad for violations of its terms of service, ultimately concluding that Sargon has done nothing to violate Patreon's terms of service, and he was in the clear. Interestingly enough, Mike, they paint this picture very much like Sargon had done something wrong and violated the code of conduct at VidCon, though he didn't. And interestingly enough, in the article there's a quote from Patreon saying that they don't believe that by attending a public event, Sargon had violated their terms of service. They go on to mention that Sargon's Patreon doesn't even post anything. He simply has it set up and you can give money if you'd like, and he posts everything to YouTube, not Patreon. So therefore, it's very difficult for him to even violate Patreon's terms of service. But let's look at another story from a couple weeks ago where Dave Rubin was called far-right by Mother Jones. Josh Harkinson wrote a story where he said Dave Rubin was far-right, and he aligned Rubin with people like Mike Cernovich, Milo Yiannopoulos, and Lauren Southern, people who are considered to be right-wing Trump supporters. Dave identifies as classic liberal. I've talked about Dave before, I've been on his show. Dave is for single-payer healthcare. He's pro-gay marriage, he is gay married himself, he's for pot legalization, many positions that are considered left-leaning. So why is it then these people are calling him far-right? Why have they called me far-right? I'm center-left libertarian. I can't speculate as to why they're doing it, but what I can say is this kind of action is extremely dangerous. We've seen Wikipedia articles be edited using these bad stories, this fake news, to assassinate someone's character. And this can be particularly dangerous for people like me when I'm out in the field and somebody sees me and then accuses me of being alt-right, and I get physically attacked. It's a way to silence people. But this article from Josh Harkinson was specifically talking about how Patreon was allowing extremists to make a career, to make a living, and to keep pushing hate. Dave Rubin is certainly not hateful. He's a pretty chill guy. I've met him. That's my personal opinion. But to target his source of income it's particularly interesting. Because now we're seeing a very similar thing where Patreon was investigating Sargon over something that happened at a convention. It seems like there are activists that are using information to assassinate the characters of individuals so they can take away their livelihood and malign them on things like Wikipedia, so again, damaging their career. This is the true danger of activism in journalism. When we look at what we saw from the James O'Keefe CNN video, we see that CNN, in all possibility, is pushing the Trump-Russia narrative for ratings to make money. But this is going to make people more and more extreme. And then we're going to see these extreme actors post fake news and fake information to try and shut down the opinions of those they disagree with. I think VidCon's in for a reckoning. These anti-SJWs, as many people call them, had several unsanctioned fan meetups where hundreds of people showed up to take pictures with them. As I was walking around with people like Chris Raygun and Shoe on Head, people would stop them and take photos. There are real fans at VidCon who support these people that are being maligned. In the Resist panel, almost half the audience was booing and the other half was cheering. It seems like there's going to be a real split soon, and VidCon's going to have to come to terms with the fact that not everyone agrees on the same politics. Digital video is a big space, and there are people from all political factions who are interested in how this stuff works and how they can improve what they do and how they create. And VidCon needs to realize that these people are going to be attending your conference, and there is a possibility of conflict unless they plan for it. But once again, it seems like there is just this continued cultural conflict that seems to be escalating. I want to know what you think. Comment below, click the like button if you like the video. We'll keep the conversation going as we always do. New videos every day at 4 p.m. I am preparing my next trip, which will be somewhere in Europe, possibly Germany, or actually Amsterdam. But there's going to be some stuff happening on the horizon, so thank you all so much for watching. New videos every day at 4 p.m. If you want to support the work that I do, you can go to patreon.com/Timcast. Give whatever you can or give nothing at all. My videos will always be available, and I will see you all tomorrow.